Today?
Very well, thanks very much, Zed.
It's good of you to join us straight out of work.
Yep,
right?
off, came down the hill.
That's
2-minute
good.
journey
And a
bike.
lot of traffic, a lot of rain. Yeah?
No traffic.
It almost
Back
seems like
streets
in Leicester we have this International Traffic Day every day.
Get a bike, mate. That's
right?
what I do.
International Traffic Day is where all the cars come out.
Yep.
Every car out there in the city is out there on the roads, and you sit and you look at each other. So we call that International Traffic Day today in Leicester. And we have here to my right, Aasiya, Bora. How are you today, Aasiya?
Hi, good evening.
Are you also straight out of work?
Yeah.
Great. So we all got to get energized, and what I've got to do here is make sure that both of you are supercharged, because we have a lot of things to talk about, don't we?
Yep.
Definitely.
Right? Now we're going to kick it off here because, we have listeners here who are very, very impatient. They want straight away, they want to get into it, right? And we've already depressed them talking about traffic. So what we're going to talk about today is the DCI. Are we familiar with that at all, guys?
Go on, tell us.
Here we go. We read about it all of the time, don't we? We read about diversity. We read about cohesion, right? And we read about integration. Right? Now, we've done this before, last year and the year before. Every city in England today is very diverse. We have a lot of diversity.
Yeah.
And we have some element of cohesion. But here is the big one. Do we have the integration? Right? So these are some uncomfortable conversations I'm having with you all. So if you are listening in, and you can talk to me directly and contact me, or you can contact here directly our number, or you can even on the Facebook, you can ask your questions. So our chaps here in the studio, they're going to get us hooked up on the Facebook, and then we're going to talk to you and make it interactive. So Chris,
Sounds good.
where are we today now? Tell us, what's your understanding of DCI?
With integration, that question, I mean, I've always been I've lived in Leicester for 30 odd years now. And I've always been a bit understated with this idea of, Leicester's a sort of marvellous paradise and everyone is like kumbaya, everyone getting along. We rub along, it's nice, it's half decent, we get along well enough, and we're really good at getting along well enough. Two points in my life I've actually kind of changed my mind about this sort of thing. First one was when my kids went to school. I went to school in the Highfields. And it was then that I got a proper sense of a place where people were coming from, scores of different parts of the world, lots of different situations, and being one community, growing up together, being taught together, being part of that school community. That, for me, gave me a real sense of, this is what this city can really be. And the second time was lockdown, when I was one of the people in this particular ward, in fact, who came together to sort out looking after people who were locked down. And it was amazing. The first couple of weeks, and people were frightened, didn't know what was going to happen, what was going on. We were overwhelmed by people from every community working together to solve problems. That, for me, it's actually had a bit of an emotional impact on me in terms of, rather than being slightly cynical about, the Highfields is kind of all right, I started thinking, there are hundreds of people here who just want to look after their neighbours, who just want to be, kind of create a Leicester. And that, for me, has kind of made me go up a bit of a gear in thinking about how inclusion could work.
Now, Aasiya, Bora, Chris and yourselves are working very hard to step up our integration in the community in light of some of the negative elements that we have experienced in the city of Leicester of late. We are now working hard to talk about the positive attributes that Chris has mentioned, that he grew up in an area which predominantly was South Asians at that time.
Grow up. I'm older than I look. I moved here when I was in the early 20s.
So,
Highfields, it's mixed with everyone. Yeah.
So it is a very, very mixed community. Now, Aasiya, yourself, you also have been involved with working with many different parts of the community and many diversities.
So many different ones. I was a supply teacher, which means you go everywhere. You go to Esmoncel and you work with children from a very impoverished background, children who are white working class, to clap a label on them, which I hate to do, but it's kind of just to identify them. Children in Belgrave and Rushie Mead, where schools are vast number of them are Hindu. You come to a place like Highfields, you come to a school, vast number of them are Muslim. You go to St. Paul's, you have, you know, lots of middle class children, if you want another label. And then I was thinking, fantastic kids everywhere. When are they going to talk to each other? Really fantastic children, but when are their futures going to kind of cohere, you know? So that was a worry and a concern for me, and a kind of question I wanted answering. And in fact, I wrote to my counsellors about it at the time.
I see. So you have been active already in the
definitely.
field of working with different persons in the community, all diversities.
Definitely.
So how many years have you been doing that?
15?
15 years.
Yeah.
So you need to be working actively in the community,
Yeah.
and then I understand you are now aspiring to become a counsellor.
I am. Yeah.
Right.
It's something I feel really strongly about because I'm from the area that needs a counsellor, you know, that has a vacancy. I grew up there. My family is still there. I have deep ties, and I feel like I could really, really represent people.
So, of course, I'm not going to ask you which party that you are representing, because I can see on your head a green scarf, right?
I wear green and blue often. I think it's easy on the eye.
So I got to go straight into it to say that, Aasiya, you are representing the Green Party.
Yeah.
And, of course, when you talk about the politics here in our city, we've traditionally been a red Leicester, yeah? And often people confuse us with the cheese, red Leicester. Don't they? And when you say red Leicester, you are talking about the Labour held council for more longer than when you were born, Chris.
Like I said, I'm older than I look. Yeah, but
Yeah.
two people between them have led this city for 42 years.
For 42 years.
Yeah, if you go back the timeline, either the leader of the council or the mayor has been one of two different individuals. And there was one brief interval where it was a Conservative Lib Dem coalition, but apart from that, it's been Labour. Yeah. And we may be due a change, one way or another.
That's right. So,
Or maybe we need to diversify the cheese with some green chutney. Some green chutney with
That's
the red
right.
Leicester.
so we have mountains to climb, don't we? Really,
Yeah.
in the city, because as our diversities increase, we have more and more different people. Each decade, we have experienced different people coming into our city, and our understanding and our mindsets, have they developed as fast as they should be developing in understanding how to deal with these different diversities from all over the world?
One thing I think is different now is that post-austerity, there's so much less room for manoeuvre. We've been really up against it in terms of government of cuts for funding. You know, whereas, say, for example, you think about the 70s, 80s, 90s, even the early noughties, you've got time and space for some communities to be funded. You've got space for youth work to happen. All that's been cut by the Tories. So now hardly anyone has got the ability to do any sort of professional work. It's all down to volunteers or people thinking, I've got to step up. So we're although Leicester has coped with loads and loads of new people coming in, and it's been great
So
and interesting.
now
We've still got to do it, but we've got a lot less resources. We've got to work together. We've got to work smart.
So now, going forward, we know about these austerity measures. The word austerity first came into action in 2008.
Yeah.
And now everyone knows how to spell the word austerity, not with an O, but with an A, right? So now, in light of fuel bills
Yeah.
and food prices,
I know.
right, where we are busy spending all our money buying weapons and sending them out to another country to do more destruction there, right? When we have these crises, where sad thing for me to discuss is that people don't even have money to buy basic foods. They don't have the money.
Yeah.
So the food banks, we are just encouraging more food banks in the whole country.
Yeah.
So in our city, we have a fair few food banks.
Yeah.
So what are you intending to do about these things as a counsellor?
Yeah. I want to talk to people about I want to go around, listen, talk to people, visit them, and find out what their situation is, what their predicament is. Use the languages, the community languages. I've got to do that, and so start off with investigating. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay, now I'm going to ask you a difficult one here.
Yeah.
When you are representing the area that we are referring to is North Abington.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, how many languages are spoken there, and how many of those languages do you speak? Although we should all be speaking English, right? I'm still learning how to speak perfect Queen's English. Well, it used to be Queen's English. Now it's going to be called the King's English, right?
I have Gujarati, Urdu, Hindi to a reasonable level, and it's been really useful, door knocking and leafleting.
Oh,
to
you
have
missed
this.
out Punjabi.
I can understand. I
Okay.
can understand.
There you go.
Thora,
So
thora.
that is a great asset
Yeah.
when you're communicating with these
Yeah.
different diversities. So predominantly the area that you are going for is Gujarati speakers, Hindi
Punjabi
speakers.
second. Punjabi
Punjabi,
second. Yeah.
Punjabi is second,
It
yeah.
is. I researched that.
Yeah, when you research that, and it's amazing how much data is available
Yeah.
straight at your fingertips
Yeah.
from Uncle Google, and there's so much information there. And Gujarati, Punjabi, and some of the new arrivals, they are struggling with English. So traditionally, what we have done, Chris, in our city, is when these new arrivals are coming, we are accommodating them with the same formula for the last 50 years, going back to when we came to the country in 1972. And we did the same things then. First thing that comes to mind is youth club. Second thing is teach them English, then create a community center,
Yeah.
go there for the normal amenities available there.
Yeah.
But now we've moved on.
Yeah.
We're in a digital age,
Yeah.
Aasiya.
Yeah.
So how are you going to deal with today's world where you are looking to create the future?
It's really important to kind of meet people where they're at with the problems they've got immediately, to keep warm, to keep their bills low, to kind of keep their children fed and uniformed and all of that. So Green Party policy on things like insulation, on a higher minimum wage, completely meet what this moment needs.
Right now, the Green Party has always talked about climate change and issues concerning our
Climate
environment. But
change-
right now, we need food on the table.
Climate change is a symptom of social injustice and social inequality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a symptom of
But-
something much.
If you become a counselor, what changes will you implement or try to implement, bearing in mind the politics is such that the money comes from national government
Yeah.
to local government,
Sure.
and if there's no money, then there are cutbacks. So if you take that into account and you go in there as a lone ranger from 54 councillors,
Sure.
when was the last time there was a Green Party
The green in the
candidate?
room. Yeah.
When was it?
The last Green Council, I think it was 2008. The councillors for a
2008.
couple of years.
Mm.
Yeah, just two. We haven't had any since then in Leicester. The rest of the country, we've been getting more and more, particularly locally.
So the Green Party in North Abington is going to be the third party, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And to me,
So you'll have the red, the blue, and the yellow.
and the green.
You go the green.
Yeah.
So I've always wondered, why are these political parties all identifying themselves with the color? Where I'm trying to smash the barriers of identity crises that are going on all over the world, and the political parties are stuck with color.
Well, it makes things convenient, and it's useful for us to have a nice, good-looking colour as our colour. I'm a historian, so one of the things I research is political history. And you look at, it was going on like 200, 250 years ago. The big parties, which then were the Conservatives and the Liberals, would all go around town with their colours, parading with the different colours. And that's where we got blue and orange from. But green, it's a kind of handy shorthand for thinking about the natural world,
The
world we've
environment.
all got
Yeah.
to live in.
Yeah.
But one of the things, though, that the Green Party is also about is social justice as well as climate justice, because
Really important.
it's about saving everyone.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
now
most of the things like pollution happen most in places like, for example, around here, where you've got terrible levels of air pollution. What can we do about that? You've got ill health caused by pollution. If you look at South Asia in particular, the big, awful climate catastrophes are beginning to start all over the place. The quicker we can sort
I'm
out,
gonna
the
I'm gonna bring it back to local,
yeah, sure.
because
yeah.
right now, next week, we have a by-election. Right now, the concerns of people living in the city is security. Security is directly related to criminal elements. So if you have all social crises, the social engineering is going to go to pot. People are worried about coming out on the street,
Yeah, they are.
right?
Yeah.
Because they're worried that somebody will attack them.
Yeah.
Why attack based on caste, color, the 4Cs? Are you familiar with the 4Cs? Yes?
Caste, color, creed,
Yes?
culture.
Yes, you
Yeah.
got it.
Heard them. Yeah, heard them before.
Aasiya here has been doing her homework really well,
Well,
I must
I've heard
say,
them
right?
before,
Yeah.
but
So the
to me-
4Cs are very relevant.
Yeah.
Now, why should
Oh.
anybody be afraid to come out on the
No,
street?
I think
Why?
from what's happened, I know how much hurt or I can imagine how much hurt and kind of, fear has been created. But we need to really, really come together to create change so that we move into a more cohesive future. To me, a kind of watershed moment, you can tell me the dates, was when an EDL march came to Leicester.
That
British
was in
Defence League.
around 2010,
Yeah.
2011.
Was it then? Yeah.
It's quite a long time
And-
ago, yeah.
Those two.
Were the two?
Yep.
Yeah. Leicester people put their hand up and said, no, you're not welcome here. Yeah. So it was a kind of, that moment has always stuck with me, as something inspirational about our city where we can say, no, this is who we are and you don't get to dictate from outside
Yeah.
how we treat each other and how we behave. And I know we can go back to that.
So we always sing the song of diversity and the One Leicester theme and cohesion, and we've been talking about integration for the last year or so, and we can never take the foot off the gas, as they say. Integration is not
Yes.
a task which is only for 1 month.
No.
It's ongoing,
Constant
every
work.
day.
Yeah.
New children are born,
Yeah.
and they're coming into the world, and it's something we have to start at the nursery school.
We do.
Right.
And then primary, then secondary.
So
like when I
now,
was at the
here's
schools.
how we go. In education,
Yeah.
we have nursery school, the children are integrated, aren't
Yeah.
they? Right? But then they're 4 years old, they go home, and if the parents have issues and they then pass them on to the
Yeah.
children,
Yeah.
then the mindsets become corrupted at primary, secondary, and university.
I wouldn't call it corrupted, but I would call it set.
Mindsets, yeah.
The mindset becomes kind of more set. It's always possible to break out, though. I remember questioning my parents and kind of going, have you thought that might not be a very nice way to think? And then God bless them, they kind of, came around to a different way of thinking. So there's always a possibility that the younger people can educate the older.
So each decade, we have to move faster than the last decade, isn't it? Because we have completely AI upon us, digital technology upon us, and we have so many advances in technology. And these children are more technology oriented. But today, we are talking about integration and the tools that we need to equip ourselves, not only in our education system, but out there on the street. What are the tools we are implementing to create that integration? Because we have to look at it, the DCI, backwards. We are saying today that before you implement diversity and cohesion, we have to do the integration first. Then that integration will create the cohesion, and that cohesion will create the diversity.
I think there's often been a tension between people thinking that integration must mean everyone is the same, whereas of course the diversity is really important. And I think it's about working out ways, mechanisms to get along. What are the ways you get along? This is why I keep coming back to that lockdown moment when people were just joining in on the basis of I'm going to help everybody. Putting community resources, like kind of mosque, pub, synagogue, church resources, all into the pot and saying, we're doing this on the basis of like anyone who's hungry, we'll feed them. We don't care who they are. So we're coming from organised communities that were coherent and had their own views of the world, not necessarily always compatible with other communities' views of the world, but from those community structures being universal. And saying for everyone.
Somebody sent me a message just now saying that Zed, DCI, I thought it meant Detective Chief Inspector, right? And here today on Ramadan FM, it means diversity, cohesion, and integration. And we're now going to change that to integration, cohesion, diversity, so that we can really work hard on these elements, Aasiya. So you are committed to these challenges ahead.
Even in the few days that I've been around in my constituency, and people have come and talked to me, and it is so touching, the trust they kind of go.
So tell us about some of the problems that
Yeah.
people have come and discussed with you.
Litter. Look at my street. Look at the, I'm scared to come home. I have to close the door quickly because of rats. That's one problem. It's like heartbreaking, for a person to come home and not feel like it's their home, and there was a load of litter down the end of her road. There was a factory that was disused. I was thinking, wow, there really needs to be, for each street a kind of community action plan or something, So, and nobody had talked to this lady in forever. She said, "You're the first person who's knocked on my door to whom I can say this is the problem with where I live."
So do you feel that communities now have to come together and be stronger for each other, working together
Without a
with their counselor,
without a shadow of a doubt.
right?
Another lady in her late 70s, she said, "It's lonely for me at home, so I like to go to town." But they removed the bus stop, which had a shelter and a seat. And, how long do I have to wait for a bus, etc., etc.? What happened to that bus stop? So
Okay.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Communities need to kind of really look out for who's vulnerable and kind of, as Chris said, come together.
So
But
surely what Chris mentioned earlier on, that when we were going through lockdown, we all came together stronger. So like these incidents we've had in the city of late, where two different parts of the community they're not rioting, which I have to correct everybody that people were saying that we were having a riot. No, it wasn't a riot. Riot was what we had in 1976 and 1984 or 82, some period like that. That was a riot where there was total social disorder. What we had here was outside infiltration. We had some extreme elements that entered our city.
yeah.
And those were two groups of people, just let's call it a big playground fight, at school that you have, that I said this, you said that, and it goes on and gets escalated. And before you know it, propaganda becomes a tool of rule. Fear becomes a tool of rule. And the media come. And what happens is victimhood kicks in, right? And this is what we saw happen in our city. Now, these are the elements. What are you going to do about that if you were faced with that in your constituency?
When you say victimhood kicks in, I kind of query what you mean, because
What
I
it
think
means
it's really
is-
important to recognize that people have been very hurt on both sides
Okay.
and feel very like
What happens?
a
There's
part of
always a right and a wrong. So we live in these times today with the media. It's very easy to take the person who's right to make them wrong, and vice versa. And then depends who has the bigger muscle on the propaganda tool. So
something like gaslighting is what you mean. So
there's many different words for it,
Yeah,
right? But the
well-
simplest word that people understand is propaganda, and that has always been the tool of war and a tool of any disconnection with communities. So we have to say that today we have 40 to 50 diversities in our city. Is that correct?
easily.
So 40 to 50 diversities. How do we manage that? Now, let's say this incident kicks off again tomorrow. How will you manage that?
Do you know, I think looking at people and being there on the ground and kind of, when we were gathering up, collating our leaflets, and, on the table next to us was a community who didn't speak our language, we didn't know who they were, but turning around to give a smile and give that demeanor of openness goes a long, long way. So I think having a mindset where you're open and encouraging that in everybody is really important. I went to a church service the other day, a church service for peace, where the Bishop of Leicester was there. There were Hindu sisters, there were Franciscan sisters, there was people who they were looking after with learning difficulties. It was a gorgeous service. And I thought, yes, this has happened in the aftermath of the trouble. But how about having it before the trouble? How about having situations where people from diverse communities get together and
because this is a topic I paid attention to in sort of EDL, anti-EDL sort of context. And really, you need to know people already. You need to know, okay, there's in this street, whose door do I knock on to say this is the time when everyone needs to be going back inside? Because when you're just a sort of someone who's only known, someone walked up and says, "Hello, I'm a counsellor." It's like, well, who are you? You need to be someone you know. This is why I think the Green Party councillor way of doing things, which is you keep on knocking on people's doors and just listening to them, listen to who they meet them, talk to them. You keep on communicating with people. I do think there's been a bit of a problem in this city because it's been Red Leicester. Even Spark and O Red Leicester, which is the best sort of Red Leicester, is that councillors haven't felt that need to keep on talking. They're too focused on, I'm a councillor, I'm a powerful person, you must do what I say.
So
they've lost the kind of, they haven't got a really battered old address book with everyone's phone numbers in it, knowing one person from each street.
Yeah.
So it's when you've got that really crucial first or second hour, when there's a lot of rumours flying around, you can make 3 really important phone calls.
Okay,
Yeah.
we've just had a message saying
Go
that to bring people together, we need a samosa and we need a chai.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, are you up for that?
Person. I definitely.
And to split them apart, you need to argue about who's
That's
got the
right.
best samosa.
Now,
But,
how about here we go, because this
We
is
need street parties. We need to listen to each other, talk to each other, and
That's
kind of
right.
learn from each other. It's so important.
so. Why don't we get this organized, Aasiya? We get once a week. We get people from different communities
Yeah.
together,
yeah,
and we talk to each other.
yeah.
We
Really
learn
important.
to love each other.
And you know,
Right?
I wouldn't want to live in a city where everybody was just like
Yeah.
me. I'd be bored. You know,
Yeah.
it's just
Now,
so lovely to.
I'm going to give you an example, right? Somebody else has sent me a message saying that we have situations all the time in the city, right? And sometimes your nails have overgrown. I'm reading it off there. And you need a nail cutter to cut your nails. But the way people are going at it is they're cutting the finger off instead, right? So do you agree with that analogy?
Yeah,
That
it's a nice one. Yeah.
this is when people are listening in, they do talk to us and they give us some ideas, and we are here to listen to everybody who's got an idea. If anybody listening right now has got some ideas on the table, let's work together on it. And I would love to see if you can arrange all different communities to come and have
I'd be up for it like this, you know. I mean, yeah. And I just want to say something. In my time as a supply teacher, I remember it was a privilege to go to lots of different schools within the space of 2 or 3 years. But I used to, when I was in schools for a longer period, I used to really, really look up to those colleagues who'd stayed in a situation long enough to say, I taught your little sister. I taught your older brother. I taught your older sister. Occasionally be like, I taught your parents, you know. And that's what a counsellor should be like. A counsellor should know their constituents. Otherwise, why say I'm representing you?
Okay, now somebody sent a message to me to say that councillors in our city have always been selected. They have never been elected. What does it mean by that?
It's not strictly true. I mean, sometimes, I think it depends what part of the city you're in. I know that some Labour Party branches, for example, do actually elect their candidates. We probably need to change the subject right now. We're trying as Green Party as always to try and put a positive vision, you know, to say that this is what we're going to produce that's good, you know, and focus on us. So I think it's difficult to answer that question, in other words. The proof of the pudding is in the eating, and people get a chance if they see a candidate. One of the good things about Green councillors, and there's like 500 Green councillors around the country now, you know, is that because of the way we stand, you've got a good chance of actually meeting your potential councillor and talking to them and reading about them in the newsletters that we're giving out, rather than just thinking, oh, here's just another person who's been imposed on me. I've had to choose. And the way that Green councillors stay in power and get re-elected, because they do, is by knocking on doors, talking to people, staying in touch, by treating people as individuals rather than just as part of a voting bloc.
Can't wait to take the views of North Evington to, you know, a Labour-dominated council and sort of speak up, you know, use my voice to amplify their voices.
So there's a lot of work to do, but I'm particularly interested in your views on how you're going to interconnect with the community. And the security issues are very important. The messages I'm getting right now is that we need to pay attention to security. And fear cannot be in our community. So how are you going to deal with that?
You know, there's no single answer. There's no single kind of magic statement that I can make that'll answer all the nuances of what you're asking, but I want to start with listening to people and kind of gathering their ideas for how they'd feel safer, what they want to do next week, next month, in the next 6 months, to feel like they have a stake and they want to contribute to the civic life of North Evington, and Leicester in a wider sense. They feel like I'm hoping that I can get people to feel empowered to speak up.
So here's some PMA, some positive mental attitude from Aasiya, that going forward, that we've established that she's not a demographic candidate. She's been selected and yet to be elected to be a councillor of merit.
I hope so.
Would that be correct?
Yes.
Are you with us on that?
Without a shadow of a
So
doubt.
that's the answer to the particular person who sent me a message, that is Aasiya being selected, or is she a councillor of merit? So definitely.
No, I want to be there for every single person in that ward. But yeah.
So the fact that you speak these languages will be an asset for you, won't it?
Yes, I guess I'm going to have to work on my Punjabi, which will be a pleasure.
That's right. I'll teach you that. I'm happy to teach you that. And you can join us, Chris,
Yeah, definitely.
for a bit of Punjabi.
I'd like to be doing that. I'm like, you said everyone should speak English. I only speak English, and it makes me feel bad. I should have paid more attention in school.
We should
Should have better
we'll take
teachers
on that
like
journey.
you. Yeah.
Of course, when we were in this country, when we came here in the 70s, we spoke all these languages, and we were not even 12 years old then. So language, connecting with each other is very important. So these connections are great when you speak the languages. And somebody just sent a message that, will you also be able to do a biryani when you do these meetings?
It's got a whole rasmalai.
I love
Let's get
it.
3 courses.
I'm a vegetarian, but I can't resist biryani. I love the kind of masala and the rice,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, this is very important that we interact with each other and we create as many avenues possible of doing this work of integration. So this one message about using food as a tool of rule, do you think that can work for us?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
So going green, there's a lot of things to do
Yeah.
with the education, with the cleaning the streets. The list is just A to Z, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? So there's a little bit of homework for you. Take the letter A and letter Z and then drop down. Do your drop downs for A. What are you going to do for A? What are you going to do for B, C, and right up the way to the
Z.
letter Z.
Access, buses. Let's see.
And of course,
Cohesion.
and of course, when you come to G, that's going to be a long list. Yeah.
Tell me why?
G, when the Green Party kick in with all the green elements, right? That will be a long
The thing
list.
is, most things are green elements. Where we can live, what our houses are like, are they any good? How much we have to
I'll
spend
give you a
on
classic
electricity.
example. Yeah.
So much of people's lives it's really based
It's
in
connected to a
environmental
green
connection.
agenda.
Yeah.
You have a high bill. You
Yeah.
have a horrible bill that makes you feel panicked. If you have insulation that hits your green box and it hits your bills box,
So-
because your bills are lower, your homes are warmer, and it's better for your carbon
So you're
footprint.
talking about money in pocket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Now that is what the listeners want. They need
Of course.
money in pocket, right?
That's one thing where having someone who's on the ground, who knows the situation
Yeah.
about stuff like the law and the grants and all because we've got all these confusing government interventions about your bills. There's a whole bunch of new stuff about there's a grant for insulation, but they keep on changing the system.
Yeah.
Having someone who actually understands that, who can say,
I
yeah,
know.
I'll answer your question. I'll find
Yeah.
I'll find the Green Party expertise to say, yeah, you qualify for that. You
Yeah.
qualify for this. This is what that means for you.
Yeah.
That's a way of just getting on the ground, making it so as you save the planet, you save the bills. The amount of power you've got to burn to heat your house goes right down, and you have to pay less money for it. Your quid's in.
And
So-
why is that information not accessible and kind of widespread? It beats me.
Earlier on, you mentioned to me that your knowledge is your power, and your power is your education, and I like that. I like that very much. I believe in that, and I would like to add on to that, if you don't mind. Right? I will say that your power is your wisdom, and your wisdom then gets to be your liberation.
Yeah,
Right?
it does.
And how
really does.
we can all benefit with excessive amount of knowledge. It's never a day when you know everything, is there?
No.
There's
And
always
it would-
something to learn.
It would be dull if it was. Yeah.
That's right. So there is a mountain to climb, and there's a lot of votes you would need. How many votes to win your area?
Data man, Chris?
It's about 2,500. It all depends on how the rest of it splits up. One of the things I quite like about this place is that everyone takes voting very seriously. Doing Green Party stuff, you find a lot of other places, the by-election turnout is like 10%. North Evington is like 50%. So there's a lot of votes in there. So we probably, if we get 2,500 votes in the bag, we're in with a chance.
And last election, how many votes did you get?
We got about less than that.
Yeah,
Aasiya
quite a
came
bit less,
third.
yeah.
A lot of it is about who decides to vote for what
Last
parties.
election, I was what was called a paper candidate.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was the third time I've stood. You know, because I was a candidate in St. Peter's and then North Evington last time, and this is you know the latest time I'm standing. But a paper candidate, you're kind of your name's on the piece of paper, you know. But this time, I'm far more invested and way more determined. You know, yeah.
Of course, you must never give up, and this is a message for all of you listening in. We need more and more young people in this world of politics. So I get very happy when I see young people coming forward, and
That's very kind of you.
I think if
Like
you
Chris, I'm older than I look. Yeah, but I'll take it.
if you come on board and you get selected, there is a lot of work to do in encouraging other young people.
Definitely. That is such a priority for me. That is such I want to see civic engagement across, from women, from young people, from
From the
it's really
ages
important.
of 14 right up to 25,
Yeah.
this is the age group which is in Leicester. The percentage of this, Chris, is what? How many young people we have percentage-wise in the city?
I'm not the knowledge guy, but I know we're one of the youngest cities.
Chris,
Yeah.
earlier on, Aasiya said your knowledge is your power. So you need to become a knowledge man.
Need to get more powerful.
Maybe your homework is your power.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And one of the things, the first time I came across this woman was when she was teaching my children, and was the person who was making sure that they wrote articles about Prevent in the school newsletter. And so actually already, although you probably don't know, and she probably doesn't know, the extent to which there's a lot of young people out there and all over the place. There's like a young man who's at Cambridge now who basically was inspired to be highly political and highly good at politics because of Aasiya teaching him. You know, so when Imran Mullah becomes an MP for the area in 5 years' time,
Inshallah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be because of you. You know, so yeah.
Well,
this
we'd
is
like
what
to
you
meet
wanna
him.
Vote for. You
Yeah.
should actually. You should get him on the program.
Yeah, what age?
Fabulous guy.
How old is he?
He's 21 now.
Yeah, definitely. Get him connected with us, and
Yeah.
you can join our training sessions here
Yeah.
that we are conducting here at Ramadan. And I think going forward, we don't have much time left. We have 3 minutes left. So we are saying that everybody, it's time to go green. Is that what we're saying, Aasiya?
Haryali, haryali. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, translate that. What does that mean?
Green, 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 green. Yes, and ektai, ektai. That's really important.
What language is that?
It's Urdu, Hindi, oneness.
that
Oneness
is-
and greenness.
She
You know.
is on fire.
Well,
Aasiya is running. She's not walking. So all of you listening in,
really important.
that this is a message from Aasiya that everyone should come on board,
Yeah.
and we need to increase the
We need
participation.
a fresh start.
Yeah.
We're desperate for a fresh start. You know. And when I'm a green in that room, I'll make sure that North Evington voices are represented, and that it comes from a place of experience, from having listened to people.
So have you spoken to the Lone Rangers in the city? The Lone Rangers are those 3 or 4 councillors who are in the city chamber, which consists of 54 councillors, and I think presently 49 of them are red, and there's about 4 of them which are
You call them Lone Rangers.
the Lone Rangers. Yeah. So you'll become one of the Lone Rangers if you get selected,
I'll integrate with them with some more
Yeah.
chai, so don't worry.
and you're going to convert them, are you?
Tubs of biryani.
This is one of the things about Greens. We have one of the policies is that councillors don't have a whip. It makes it very difficult to run the
Yeah.
place if you're in charge.
Yeah.
So what that means is they're not told how to vote. There's not a system.
So you follow your
within-
conscience.
Within any kind of green, with any kind of green group of, if there's 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, the councillor hasn't got any kind of party whipping system that says you must vote the party line. They've all got to talk to the areas they're representing, look at what the policy is, and then they make their own mind up. Often they end up working together. So in places we've got a lot of councillors who work
you
together,
don't have
but
the
we haven't
party
got
line, you're
quite-
saying?
There is no compulsory party whip
Okay,
for councillors.
because you saw that if you don't follow the party line, you get suspended.
That's right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that
And
is
it makes
quite
a
common.
mockery of democracy, frankly. Yeah.
It does. So when we have all the parties, right, they're running 3 camps. So the middle ones are the neutrals, and you have the right camp, and you have the left camp, right? So the division has started already before it even comes to the streets.
But that's democracy, though, isn't it? I mean, I quite like the fact that people get the choice, that you have you
Well,
have
then the
clear
problem is
choice.
we have to read it in the media all the time that he said this, she said that, and
Yeah.
they're infighting between themselves. So how are they going to govern a city or a country?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why it's kind of good to be a Green, because one of the things we try and do all the time is talk about why we're good rather than why the other lot are bad.
So
And she is
your
good, so we can talk about it a
your
lot.
challenge is you're going into an area where it is high numbers of people there. They don't know where their next food is going to come from, and it is very difficult.
And often
So
they're
we're going to
cold.
wish you luck that
Thank you.
you are going to perform really well, and you will serve your
Constituents.
constituents in a manner which they are desperate for,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we wish you luck for that. So Aasiya, I think you personally, I think you'll do them well because of your experience in teaching
Yeah.
Yeah.
and your connection with the children,
Yeah.
and
young
certainly
people.
you will
Yeah.
make a difference to the next generation who aspire to make this city even better than what it is today. So you are definitely looking at the future, aren't you?
When I teach children, and I can see it in their eyes, they're telling me, what have you done and what are you going to do as a teacher? So how much more is that going to be magnified when I'm a counsellor?
Of course, that is where we want to be, Chris. And your last few words, Chris?
If you can vote for this woman, vote for this woman.
And of course, you are, just let everybody know what is the day of casting your vote.
Thursday, the 13th
That's
of October.
next week, Thursday, on the
Next week,
13th of
Thursday.
October. And do you also have a postal vote system?
Yeah, they've gone out, I think, yeah. We've been, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So a lot
yeah,
of people are voting
Yeah.
postal nowadays.
Postal votes should have arrived. They were sent out, I think, starting on
Monday?
on Monday, so yesterday, so they should be arriving this week. One thing, by the way, a lot of people don't know, if your postal vote arrives a bit late or you're not sure who to vote for and you leave it beyond the last posting day for the election, that's okay. You can fill it in anyway, put it in its envelope and just walk into your polling station
And
give
hand
it
it in.
and hand it in, and that will then get taken to the count.
Of course, then we look forward to the results. And when are the results produced?
It'll
Friday-
be about
the Friday
probably
morning?
early hours of Friday morning.
Early as the Friday
Yeah,
morning.
so we'll know by like 1 o'clock in the morning, unless anyone asks for a recount, in which case it will be 3 o'clock.
Okay, so we look forward to that because it is a very important seat in Leicester, isn't it? North
Yep.
Evington.
Yeah,
Yeah.
particularly now.
And
Yeah.
just to remind everybody, North Evington seat was vacated because one of the previous councillors stood down,
Yeah.
and then the seat became available, and that is why you
running.
stepped up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you were chosen by your party
Yeah.
to say that you are the best fit for this particular seat.
Would. Yeah.
Have I summed it correctly?
Perfect.
That is great. So that is a message for all of you for next Thursday on the 13th to
Vote
come
for a
out
fresh start.
and cast your vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wish you luck.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be here chatting. And talking.
Great. So thank you very much, everybody. We shall join you again later on, maybe on Saturday. We've got a fantastic program lined up. We're going to join you. We have some experts on the issues of diversity, integration, and cohesion, and they're going to show us some light and tell us the way to go. Thank you very much. Chris, if you'd like to say goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks very much, Zed. Thanks for the great conversation.
Great. Thanks a lot. Bye.